Good morning, my friends. Stephanie Haney here. It is day 10 of my egg freezing cycle, and for me, that means it is egg retrieval procedure day. I'm about to head into Extend Fertility in Manhattan, where they are going to harvest my eggs today, and hopefully we will have a bunch of them that are mature and able to be frozen. Going into this process, I just want to say that I'm really thankful for all of the messages of support I've received from everyone who's been following along. Up until this point, it's been very much about me just documenting what the day-to-day is like if you're going to go through an egg freezing cycle. I have a lot more information to share, which I'm going to share after I have my procedure, so I hope that you'll keep following along. But for now, I want to thank everyone who has sent me a message of support, people who have gone through this, that have been sending me tips about how to make the process easier, things to do for myself after the procedure, like eating salty snacks and drinking Pedialyte to prevent against hyperstimulation. We'll talk about that later. From people who have told me that they have sent this video series on to their friends who are considering doing egg freezing. From complete strangers who have just sent me messages of support that have really uplifted me throughout this process. And to be quite honest, what I want to share with you guys is that documenting this for me has made this process so much easier for me. In a weird way, it's kind of taken the focus off of myself for me and made it about something bigger, which is sharing this information with people who might be interested in doing it themselves. And I have to be honest, I didn't have a lot of the side effects that a lot of people warned me I might have. I did have nausea and I did have dehydration early on in the process. I felt like I was a little bit dehydrated later in the process as well. I was very tired throughout the entire process, but I didn't have the extreme bloating. I didn't have symptoms of depression, which some people shared with me that they had while going through the egg freezing process. So in that sense, it's been a bit of an easier journey for me. But just logistically speaking, it's been a little tough, the appointments before work, making sure that you are either at home to do your injections at the proper time or planning ahead so that you have your things with you in case you're not home. But that's what I wanted to impress upon people mostly, is that you can do this. Before going into this, I thought there's no way that I could do this while I'm working, but at least at Extend Fertility, they made it very, very workable for me to do that. And you can do it. And we should do it as young as we possibly can if we're interested in doing it. It is a big financial commitment, but I think it's very worth it in terms of just having some peace of mind for me. And there are also a lot of other considerations at play too that I'm going to discuss in later videos, like whether to freeze your eggs or freeze embryos. For me, as a person who's not engaged and not married, it was absolutely freezing eggs for me because I do still hold out hope that the person I create a family with will be my life partner. So I didn't want to freeze embryos with sperm, for instance. But for people who are in a committed relationship, you might want to think about freezing eggs as well, just from a property standpoint in terms of who owns the things that you create. Your eggs, you own. When you create an embryo with the sperm of another person, gets a little dicey, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but people do get divorced. People do die. Things happen when you're in a committed relationship. I'm speaking as a divorced person. So, I didn't ever expect to be divorced, but that happened. We didn't create any eggs or embryos together, but those get lumped into those property considerations. So definitely things to think about when you're going through this process. So I just had to put my little lawyer hat on for a second and just share that with you. I'm going to go into more depth about that later, but that's something that I definitely wanted to mention before I go into this procedure that people need to think about. I have some fears going into this procedure. At my age, the chance of a successful pregnancy with 10 mature eggs frozen is somewhere between 66% and 50%. It's a good chance, but it's not foolproof. So I'm hoping that the mature eggs that I get are closer to that 16 count that I had when I went for my first day of baseline monitoring, but only time will tell. I will know today, right after my procedure, how many eggs were harvested, but I won't know until tomorrow how many of them were mature enough to be frozen. So that's something that is giving me a little bit of anxiety right now, but I'm optimistic that we will hopefully be on the higher end. We will see. All right, I'm getting ready to head to Extend now, where my friend Nanette will meet me, and she'll be waiting with me there throughout the procedure and then coming home with me, and I will check in with you once I get to the facility. Thanks, guys.